Am I the idiot for shutting off the home Wi-Fi so that my wife would stop working? Ike's 35, have been married to my wife Jen and 30 for 3 years, and before that we dated for 6 years. She is also 32 weeks, 8 months, pregnant with twins. She's my best friend and I absolutely adore her, with one minor flaw, she is a huge workaholic/perfectionist. While we both have very well-paying jobs, Jen's job is way more stressful and time-demanding. Even though she is brilliant and amazing at what she does, she often works around the clock, on average, 60-hour weeks, at home and in office. This wasn't a problem before, but about 2 weeks ago her doctor told her to take a step back from work, i.e., go on leave early, because the stress was starting to cause her a couple of health issues, even though the babies are fine. However, being the workaholic that she is, she has still been working from her laptop 6-8 hours every day. Which, fine, I understand that she had a couple of cases that she needed to finish. But most days she was so focused on work that she was forgetting to eat meals and falling asleep at her desk. So, yesterday when I got home, I realized that she had done the same thing again. I woke her up and told her that she needed to go rest in bed. She insisted she was fine and said there was an emergency with a client of hers and she just needed to finalize some things for a coworker. I asked her just to take a break first and take a nap/eat, but she said that she would once she was done and that it wouldn't take her more than an hour. I told her fine, but no longer than an hour even though I was pretty annoyed. So, 2 hours later when she was still working, I became frustrated and unplugged the Wi-Fi and put the cable out of sight. The only purpose of this was to cut her off from work on her laptop because she clearly had no intention of stopping. Once she realized, she yelled at me, called me in. And she said that I was treating her like a child and accused me of being controlling, condescending, and borderline abusive. I told her that she is being stupid and just to let the coworker that asked for her help to handle it. I said that she was free to use the mobile hotspot on her phone or figure out the router herself, but otherwise I would plug it back in when I woke up, which I did. She was so mad that she slept in the guest room, and when I went to apologize the next morning for calling her stupid, not for cutting the internet, she said that she can't even look at me. She hasn't said another word to me yet. I'm starting to feel like I might have been a bit extreme, even if I only did it out of concern. But honestly, overdoing it by trying to meet deadlines that she's not even supposed to be responsible for. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for not including my brother's GF on a family trip? My younger brother is 18. I am 33 and I've lived abroad since I was 23. I wanted to go on a holiday with my family, parents, husband, our 2 kids, and brother, since we haven't been able to for a while, and because if I go to visit them at home then the whole visit becomes about catching up with other people and I don't get good quality time with them. We decided to go to Paris during brother's Easter break from school and all of us adults coordinated our annual leave around it. I guess brother told his GF, of maybe 18 months or so, and I started getting messages from her being all excited about the trip. I asked her what she meant and she said she was so excited to go. I texted my brother to ask if he told her she was coming too, and he said no, he'd only told her that he was going. So I messaged her back and politely said that it's a family-only holiday and I'm sure brother would bring her back a souvenir, but unfortunately she won't be coming with us. She started swearing at me and called me a selfish rich CNT and that she is family and I should be treating her too. I've met her like twice. I don't know her, but yes, I acknowledge she is with my brother. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for not taking my son to his favorite restaurant for his birthday since his mom fed him right before I picked him up? My kid is very book smart. However, sometimes he doesn't really make good decisions. So his mom or I help him out. My ex has custody of him and I get to see him whenever he has time. Usually every weekend. I had been saving up money to take him out for dinner at a steakhouse he loves. This isn't something we can do all the time. Unlike so many people in this sub, I'm not a millionaire tech guy and I have never received an inheritance. For me, spending this much money for a meal is a sacrifice. But he is worth it. I had spoken with his mom so she knew the plan. I had spoken with him and he was excited about going there for his birthday. I went to pick him up at his mom and stepdad's house. When I got there I went in because we are all friendly that way. He was finishing 2 grilled cheese sandwiches and a bowl of tomato soup. I asked why he was eating since he knew we had a reservation for dinner. He said he was hungry so his mom made him food. After we left I asked him if he was still hungry and he said he was stuffed. So I called the restaurant and canceled the reservation. We went to see a movie instead. He has room for soda and popcorn. When I took him home his mom asked how dinner was and I told her we changed plans. Now she is upset with me because I didn't follow through on taking him out like I said I would. I think I made the right decision. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling off a disabled woman who was taking advantage of my very elderly grandmother? My grandma Julia is going to be 84 years old this spring. Nonetheless, she is still a very robust and healthy woman, still very energetic and able-bodied, despite her age. She is kind, generous, and empathetic, almost to a fault. She was utterly devoted to caring for my late grandpa until his death, and never, ever once complained. Towards the end, he felt badly about how much she had to care for him, and she flatly said, she never minded doing so in the slightest. Anyway. A few years ago, by her own choice, she sold the home her and Grandpa shared for decades, and moved into an apartment building for senior citizens. To cut to the chase, a neighbor of hers who lives in the building is in her 50s, and severely disabled due to a stroke she suffered a few years ago. That's a terrible situation to be in, and I do feel badly for her. However, I think she was taking advantage of my grandmother's kind heart. She was getting my grandmother to help her with various things that, to be quite honest, I felt she really just shouldn't be, i.e., helping her get onto the toilet, in and out of the shower, in and out of bed, etc. Those are things that, in my opinion, someone cannot be doing for another person, unless they're either family, or a licensed caregiver. For one. My grandma may be in good health, but she is still a very old woman, and could seriously injure herself doing that. On top of that, there's a very serious liability issue here. If something happened to this woman, my grandma could be held responsible for it, and I do not want that. When I went to visit with my infant son, and grandma told me about this, I was less than pleased, and decided to march right down the hall and have a chat with her. I said, in these exact words, I know you have a serious disability and need help, but my grandmother is a very elderly woman who simply cannot be doing things like that for you. She could seriously injure herself. If you need that much assistance with basic everyday tasks, you should really look into hiring a personal caregiver, or moving into an assisted living facility. The woman retorted, my family is useless and won't help me. What are you going to do when you get old? I just said, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, but the bottom line is, my grandmother cannot help you anymore. With that, I walked away. When I had a similar conversation with my grandma, she agreed that helping this woman like that really wasn't a good idea. When she herself told this woman that she wouldn't help her anymore, the woman had a similarly unhappy response. AITA for telling that woman off the way I did. Yes. She's severely disabled. That sucks. Yes, she clearly needs help. However, I feel my grandma should not be the one giving it. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for creating fake evidence of my crush's GF cheating on him? So my best friend for the past 10 years, John, has been dating a bitchy girl named Ashley. John and have been best friends since we were kids and is the most important person in my life other my family. We started dating but broke up 2 years ago when my family moved to Tbilisi, Georgia, but now I moved back and he's dating Ashley. Ashley is the biggest cunt I've ever met. She talks major shit about John behind his back and of his family. She says he's only with him because he's rich and calls people she doesn't like Nazis or racists. She calls other girls, including me, as sluts and whores and makes fun of fat people all the time. Unfortunately, she does this when John isn't around. She's a completely different person. I've told John this and he says I'm just being jealous or thinks I misinterpreted what Ashley says. When it comes to hanging out, I'm generally John's first priority and this pisses Ashley off so much. When I see her at uni, she makes threatening gestures and tells me to back off. I always knew she was cheating on John, but I couldn't prove it. I overheard her talk about dick she sucked, but I knew if I told John he might not believe it. A week ago I saw Ashley make out with another dude. I pulled out my camera to take a pic, but she noticed and ran away before it was too late. I got a text from an unknown phone number saying, "You didn't see anything, if you tell you're done for." I told John and he still didn't believe me. Ashley's friend approached me and said I'll regret it if I tell John what I saw Ashley did. I got an idea after this. I talked to Ashley's roommate who hates Ashley. I told her to leave the window open, they live on a first-floor apartment. And I had a guy friend jerk off in a condom and I then put the condom underneath her pillow and in the rubbish bins. He also gave me a pair of his used underwear and I left that on the floor behind the door. Luckily roommate was gone and so was Ashley for the weekend and Ashley came home first and John visited. I was worried Ashley might find it before John came over but by the grace of God she didn't. John saw it and lost his shit. The roommate is one of those no sex before marriage types. So it obviously wasn't hers and there was no explaining the men's underwear. John called me and broke down saying I was right and he's so sorry. He came over to my place and hugged me and cuddled me and cried over my shoulder the whole night. I feel so guilty about it but I let him know the truth, even though I had to fake some evidence. I love John and even if I can't date him I'm still fine being friends with him and I worry if I tell him the truth he won't forgive me. I'm sorry if I'm a bad person, please have mercy on me on your judgments. I want to be a better person. Edit. I am so sorry. I really am a horrible person. I don't deserve a friend like John or anyone. Goodbye.